Dolly Parton just revealed the truth about the moment that changed her life. And Porter Wagoner's. For years she's spoken with grace about their time together, the shows they shared, and the music that shaped country history. But behind the bright lights of Nashville was a partnership deeper than most ever realized, one built on trust, ambition, and the quiet pull of two hearts that understood each other completely. On the morning she left RCA Studio B, Dolly didn't look back. She simply placed a single sheet of lyrics on the piano. "I will always love you." It was her way of saying everything words could not: gratitude, love, and farewell, all folded into one song. But what led her to write it? What happened in those final moments between them? And how did a song born from heartbreak become one of the most enduring goodbyes in music history? The studio was quiet that morning. Dolly Parton stood by the door, her hand lingering on the frame as if holding on to something invisible, a final thread between her and the man who had shaped so much of her world. Porter Wagoner watched from across the room, silent, proud, and already aching with the loss he could not name. Between them hung the unspoken truth that love, when bound to destiny and art, can lift two souls to greatness and still break them apart. There was no argument, no scene of anger or betrayal, only a kind of stillness that comes when both hearts know a chapter has ended. Dolly turned once more before stepping into the sunlight outside RCA Studio B. The song she had written for this moment, "I Will Always Love You," waited quietly in her hands, a farewell wrapped in melody. It was not a song of bitterness or regret, but of gratitude, a confession disguised as goodbye. Years later, when she would speak of him, her voice would soften. Because some loves do not end. They simply take on new shapes, living forever in the echo of a song. The first time Dolly Parton stepped onto Porter Wagoner's stage at the Grand Ole Opry, she was 17, small and unassuming in frame, but fierce in ambition. The world would see a country girl, with a voice too big for her body, a presence too bright for her age. But behind the spotlight she carried a quiet awareness that every note, every lyric, every gesture on stage was a chance to be seen, to be understood, to leave a mark that could survive the fleeting applause of a crowded theater. Porter, already established, watched her with curiosity at first, a seasoned performer sizing up the talent of someone new, someone raw, someone daring. There was an energy between them from the first chord, a subtle electricity that neither could articulate. When Dolly's voice rose over the piano, it was like sunlight cutting through the haze of a long winter. It carried strength and fragility at once, a clarity that could pierce through noise, ego, and expectation. Porter recognized it immediately, that rare spark that separates a singer from a star. And in that recognition, something unspoken ignited. It was not romance at first, not in the way the world imagines. It was understanding, acknowledgement, and the quiet thrill of discovering a kindred spirit. They began performing together not as lovers, but as partners. The chemistry undeniable yet contained. The rhythm of their voices dancing around each other with perfect timing. Each harmony a conversation of its own. In the studio behind the curtains of performance, they shared glances, subtle nods, and small moments of laughter that carried the weight of mutual recognition. Each song became more than a recording. It became a dialogue, a shared secret between two hearts navigating the edges of ambition and artistry. Porter, always generous with guidance, offered Dolly mentorship that felt simultaneously protective and liberating. He gave her space to shine, to test the boundaries of her talent, to assert her voice in ways the industry had never quite expected. Dolly responded with gratitude and grace, her youthful determination tempered by an awareness of the fragile trust that existed between them. In private, away from the cameras and the stage lights, they spoke about songs, stories, and the dreams that drove them forward. It was during these quiet interludes that the first seeds of something deeper were planted. Not the kind of love that demands possession, but the kind that exists in understanding, respect, and the mutual elevation of two people who see each other fully. By the time the final chord of their first duet lingered in the studio air, it was clear that something profound had taken root. Audiences might have noticed only the harmony, the smile shared mid-song, the polish of two professional performers at the top of their craft. But beneath that surface lay a rare connection, subtle yet unbreakable, the spark that would endure through fame, distance, and the heartbreak that inevitably followed. It was a spark that would inspire "I Will Always Love You," a song that carried with it the weight of devotion, gratitude, and a love defined not by possession but by the courage to let go. By the late 1960s, Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner had become inseparable on stage, their partnership the talk of country music. Audiences flocked to see the duo, drawn to the effortless chemistry between the seasoned mentor and the young rising star. Yet behind the applause and the bright lights, their connection ran deeper than the music. It was a bond forged in respect, shared ambition, and the kind of unspoken understanding that comes only when two people recognize the echoes of their own heart in another. Their days were long and relentless. Tour buses humming along the highways of the South, radio shows, television appearances, and studio sessions that stretched into the early hours of the morning. In each setting, the interplay between Porter and Dolly became more than professional choreography. Porter guided with a gentle authority, offering advice, encouragement, and subtle corrections, while Dolly absorbed every gesture, every lesson, growing not just as a performer, but as a presence who could command attention without ever losing her authenticity. Together they created a synergy that felt effortless yet was painstakingly cultivated, every harmony rehearsed, every timing perfected, every laugh shared behind the curtains, an unspoken testament to their closeness. There were moments that only they would recognize. The soft glance after a successful rehearsal, the quiet nods in a crowded recording studio, the laughter that erupted over a forgotten lyric, all became part of the rhythm of their partnership. It was a love defined by fidelity to each other's talent, by the constant desire to see the other rise, to hold space for brilliance without diminishing their own. Audiences never knew the weight of this intimacy, the depth of devotion that existed beyond the camera lens, beyond the spotlight. Yet their bond was not without tension. Fame demanded sacrifices, and the music industry of the 1960s was unforgiving. There were moments when schedules conflicted, when exhaustion frayed patience, when personal ambitions tested the limits of collaboration. Even then, the undercurrent of mutual respect never wavered. Porter and Dolly had discovered a rare equilibrium, a partnership in which they could challenge one another, push each other to heights, and still remain tethered by loyalty and admiration. It was the kind of love that did not demand possession but celebrated growth, the kind of connection that could survive distance, disagreement, and the inevitable pressures of life in the public eye. Their most memorable performances, the duets on the Porter Wagoner Show, the studio recordings for RCA Victor, the sold-out concerts across Nashville, Knoxville, and beyond, were imbued with this quiet emotional truth. Every note carried the weight of unspoken devotion, every harmony whispered of trust, and every song became a document of their shared journey. Behind the curtain, away from the fans and the cameras, they laughed, rehearsed, and dreamed together, forging a bond that would remain unbroken even as circumstances would later demand change. It was during these years that the first whispers of "I Will Always Love You" began to take shape. The song would later become their most poignant testament, a farewell that was never bitter, only reverent, a melody that captured the enduring love, the gratitude, and the extraordinary intimacy of a partnership that had changed both of their lives forever. By the early 1970s, the partnership between Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner had reached its peak in public acclaim. Their duets topped charts. The television audiences for the Porter Wagoner Show were loyal and enormous, and fans eagerly followed the magnetic connection they shared on stage. Yet beneath the applause and polished performances, a quiet tension had begun to take root, subtle, almost imperceptible to outsiders, but undeniable to those who lived it every day. Dolly had grown into a star in her own right. Her voice carried more weight, her presence demanded attention, and her vision for her career began to stretch beyond the confines of their duets and television appearances. While Porter had been her mentor, guiding her through the early stages of fame, he now faced the reality that the young woman he had nurtured was ready to chart her own path. Ambition, which had once united them in shared goals, now became a force that pulled them in different directions. Their schedules clashed. The creative decisions they had once navigated together became points of disagreement, and the intensity of daily life in the spotlight magnified every small misalignment. Their bond, though strong, was tested by circumstance. Dolly's desire for independence was not a rejection of Porter, but a necessary assertion of her artistry and identity. Porter, for his part, understood and respected her talent, yet could not help the sting of realizing that their collaboration, the thing that had defined so much of their lives, was evolving into something different. There were unspoken moments of heartbreak, a lingering glance at the television cameras, a half-smile backstage, the quiet knowledge that their personal closeness could not survive the momentum of fame without change. The emotional weight of their separation was profound, not just because of ambition, but because it was underlined by genuine affection. They had shared years of trust, laughter, and mutual growth. Their partnership had been a rare love, one rooted in respect and admiration, yet it was still a love that demanded sacrifice. For Dolly, stepping away from Porter was both a professional necessity and a deeply personal challenge. For Porter, watching her leave was bittersweet, a recognition that loving someone does not always mean holding them close in the way the heart desires. Amid this fracture, the idea for a farewell song began to emerge. Dolly retreated into her thoughts, her guitar and the quiet moments away from the cameras, searching for a way to encapsulate what words alone could never convey. The result would become "I Will Always Love You," not a song of bitterness, not a cry of despair, but a tender acknowledgement of enduring love, gratitude, and the courage to let go. In its melody and lyrics, she captured the paradox of love that persists even when circumstances require distance, a love that uplifts, respects, and honors the other person, even when the path diverges. This period, marked by both professional triumph and personal tension, revealed the depth of what they shared. The fracture between them was real, painful, and necessary, yet it was never a fracture of the heart. Their mutual respect and care remained intact, laying the foundation for a farewell that would resonate with millions. A song born from love, sacrifice, and the bittersweet understanding that some relationships exist not to possess, but to inspire. In 1973, Dolly Parton walked into an RCA Victor recording studio in Nashville, with a heart heavy yet determined. The microphones and polished floors were familiar territory, yet that day everything felt different. She was not just a performer, she was a woman carrying the weight of gratitude, love, and farewell in every note she would sing. Across town, Porter Wagoner knew the inevitability of what was coming. Their partnership had brought them both fame and financial success, but now the time had come to part ways, to honor the personal and professional growth that had transformed them. The melody of "I Will Always Love You" emerged from Dolly's fingers and heart as a confession, a prayer and a benediction all at once. Every lyric was intentional, every pause deliberate. She was speaking directly to Porter, though no one else in the world would ever fully grasp the private intimacy of that message. The song was a love letter to what they had built together: the mentorship, the laughter, the late nights on tour buses, the quiet moments in dressing rooms where words were unnecessary because their bond already said everything. And it was a farewell, a recognition that love can endure without possession, that letting go can be the highest act of devotion. When the record played back for the first time, it carried more than Dolly's crystalline voice and heartfelt phrasing. It carried the weight of years spent side by side, the ache of separation, and the deep reverence of a love untainted by jealousy or resentment. Porter listened, understanding immediately that the song was not an end in bitterness, but a celebration of all they had shared. In that moment, both recognized that this music was their true legacy, a living testament to the enduring power of love, respect, and artistry. The release of I Will Always Love You was met with critical acclaim and commercial success, topping country charts and cementing Dolly's rise as a solo artist. Yet the numbers and accolades could never capture the song's full significance. For Dolly and Porter, it was never about the charts. It was about the quiet acknowledgement of mutual devotion, the courage to embrace change without losing the emotional bond that had defined their lives. Every note, every word, carried the bittersweet resonance of love that had to evolve in order to endure. Even as years passed and their paths diverged, Dolly launching a solo career that would make her an icon, Porter continuing his own celebrated trajectory. The song remained a bridge between them. It was the sonic echo of trust, the proof that love can survive even when proximity fades. In private letters, interviews, and rare moments shared backstage after performances, both acknowledged the enduring significance of that goodbye. It was a farewell, yes, but also a vow to honor the bond, preserving it in a future where distance and ambition could never undo the love they had so tenderly and intentionally built. I Will Always Love You became more than a hit. It became a testament, a song birthed from mutual respect and unwavering affection. It immortalized a partnership that had lifted both Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton to heights they could not have reached alone. It was, in every sense, the soundtrack of a love that could never fully be lived, but would never fade. Years passed, but the echo of what Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner had shared never faded. Even as Dolly's solo career skyrocketed, moving from country stages to global recognition, Grammy awards, and eventually her own theme park, the memory of their partnership remained an enduring presence in her life. Porter, meanwhile, continued to tour, record, and perform, yet his reflections often returned to the young woman who had once stepped into his world with courage, determination, and a voice that seemed to carry the weight of the universe. Their bond, though altered by time and circumstance, was never broken. Letters were exchanged, visits occasionally arranged, and public acknowledgments, however brief, were always imbued with warmth and reverence. They spoke of their shared history, not with bitterness or nostalgia, but with the quiet gratitude of two souls who had been profoundly understood by another human being. Porter often credited Dolly for inspiring him, pushing him to remain relevant in a rapidly changing industry, and imbuing their work with a sense of artistry and emotional depth that he could never replicate alone. Dolly, for her part, continued to honor the mentorship, patience, and friendship that had guided her formative years, acknowledging the emotional truth that had given I Will Always Love You its enduring resonance. There were moments, behind closed doors, when the weight of their separation returned like a ghost. Porter occasionally allowed himself the fleeting pang of regret, not for what was lost, but for what could not be shared fully, for the love that was real yet restrained by circumstance. Dolly, too, carried a private tenderness, a memory of those tours, recordings, and rehearsals, the laughter and quiet confessions that had never been recorded, but remained indelible. And yet, in that recognition, there was no bitterness, no longing for possession, only the quiet comfort that comes when love is respected rather than demanded, honored rather than constrained. Their story became a blueprint for the rarest kind of love, one that persists even when life dictates separation, one that thrives in respect, gratitude, and the acknowledgement that happiness for one does not require the diminishment of the other. I Will Always Love You was more than a song. It was a living testament to this truth, a melody that allowed both Dolly and Porter to release the ache of goodbye while preserving the beauty of what had been. In every performance, in every listener touched by the song, the essence of their partnership lingered: mutual admiration, loyalty, and the profound emotional resonance of a love unselfish and enduring. Decades later, when Dolly reflected on her life and career, she often returned to that chapter with reverence, not a chapter of regret, but of gratitude. She and Porter had shared something extraordinary, a partnership, a love, a trust that had shaped both their lives in ways the world could not fully witness. In honoring it, in preserving it, through music and memory, they had discovered a truth that few ever understand, that the deepest love is not always the one lived publicly, but the one carried quietly, faithfully, and unshakably in the heart. Even now, the legacy of their bond lives on, in recordings, in recollections, and in the knowledge that some loves endure, because they are built not on possession, but on respect, devotion, and the courage to celebrate each other, no matter the distance. Some love stories are written not in grand gestures or public displays, but in the quiet spaces between performances, in the shared laughter backstage, in the glances that speak volumes without a single word. Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner never needed the world to witness the depth of what they shared. Their love was a delicate equilibrium of admiration, respect, and devotion, a bond that thrived in silence as much as it did in song. "I Will Always Love You" became more than a chart-topping hit. It became a vessel for all the emotions they could not live openly, a timeless declaration of a connection that neither distance nor circumstance could sever. It carried the weight of mentorship, partnership, and profound affection, a musical testament to the enduring power of love built on trust, generosity, and understanding. In the years that followed, each carried that bond forward in their own way, letting its lessons guide the separate paths their lives had taken. Some loves ask for nothing but understanding. Some stories are best treasured quietly, held with gratitude and reverence, leaving a resonance far deeper and more enduring than the fleeting applause of the world. For more emotional stories, check out this video.